Anna Mari Fanthorpe, and I'll be your host today. Today, I have Robin Pierce here with me, and she is from Getting a Grip. We are going to be talking about getting a grip on our business, on our time, and we're going to do that by having a look at Robin's story and finding out what she's done over the past how many decades?
30, not 30 decades, 30 years.
30 years in her business and still charging on and learning new digital, which I think is super exciting. Robin's allowed me to use her age in this, which, I'm super grateful. So at 74, just like still killing it in her business. And so there's no reason why any of us can't adapt and move forward with what we want to do by applying some digital into our realm. Now, just a reminder, a lot of you guys stream with us on social media, and I just want to remind you that if you want to communicate with myself or Robin today, please drop your questions into the comment section, the Q&A section, or the chat function, depending on what channel you're tuning in with us from. If you're here on Zoom, we do have the transcript all activated, and you can find that by moving your mouse around and just have a look down there. Now, to the live transcript option, there's options on all of our other social media, so you'll see it there. Now, Robin, thank you so much for digital boosting with us today.
My pleasure, Anna Mari. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I've been really excited because I'm a bit of an efficiency nut. Like I really love efficiency, and I love people who love efficiency. 5 minutes early or 10 minutes late kind of situation. And I was looking forward to this interview because I wanted to learn about your story, as it does have a bit of history, a bit of longevity there with your business. So I thought we might start out by just talking about getting a grip and how that all came about. And what I want to do is, while you're giving us a few minutes about yourself and how your business got started and what the inspiration was, I'm going to go ahead and open up all the live chats across the platform. So I'll disappear for a second, but then I'll be right back. Okay.
Cool.
Welcome, Robin.
So what got me into the field is that I was bad at it, which people always look at me a little bit weird when I'm standing in the front of a big audience and I'm telling people that I got into time management because I was bad at it. And they go, really? Is this someone we want to listen to? But I feel that's a real advantage because I totally understand what it's like to struggle. I was raised 6 kids, including a foster son with special needs, ended up in Auckland selling real estate. And in that real estate phase of my life, I was a very high performer, but I was constantly doing burnout. And one day a friend said to me, in some frustration when I was moaning and complaining because I didn't have enough time, "Oh, for goodness sakes, Robbie, go and get a decent diary." And that was the beginning of the journey, which has led me to it's probably a little more than 30 years now, but 30 plus years career, which I stumbled into, quite frankly, helping people with their time management. It totally surprised me when people came asking for help. And that has taken me around the world. I was just calculating some of the interesting places I've been to. Most of my work has been in Australia and New Zealand, to be fair, but a significant amount has also been offshore. So the obvious candidates like UK and Germany and Holland and France, but also places like Nigeria and Dubai. I did something for the ICC, International Cricket Council in Dubai. Papua New Guinea, couldn't go shopping there without a guard. And also Great Barrier Island, well, we call that overseas. Anyway, so that's some of the places I've been. And my work really has evolved. A lot of keynoting, a lot of workshops with people, coaching. I still do all of those things, and also writing. So there's been a lot of time spent on writing lots of books, 8 nonfiction ones, and now my other business that I'm running now. I don't call myself retired, actually, Anna Mari. It's my sidekick, side hustle, I suppose you could say, is writing historical fiction novels.
Yeah, well, it's not really. Yeah, it is your side hustle. It is a business in itself. I mean,
it is.
We think, oh, well, I do that for joy, so it's not a business. Well, they can be both one and the same, can't they?
Oh, and it's leading me to so many more digital spaces. It's just amazing.
Yes. So I love that. And it's obvious that you're really good at managing your time because you fit so much in. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges you've experienced over time with running your own business. Obviously, you'll have had a little bit of a change in what some of those challenges were in the beginning versus what some of them were towards the end or now. And so I'd love to get into that. And then we'll kick on into successes. And then I want to focus on a particular area of your business, which is your email marketing, because I think it's quite a unique story. So let's get into some of the challenges that you've experienced and maybe how you overcame some of those as well, which would be really interesting.
The first one, quite early in the piece, was that I learned about delegation the hard way because I'd done the burnout thing when I was in real estate, stumbled into running a training business in a very small way to begin with, but have been starting to do quite a bit of coaching and people, and I realized that I was starting to feel burnt out again. And I came in thinking, oh, something wrong with this picture. And I found, and this is for small business people, I think is such a big issue, that if you are constantly trying to do all of the things yourself, you actually can never get over, it's like you can't quite get over the wall, if you like, of being stuck in the minutiae of things. And I found by doing a simple little chart, just getting a sheet of paper, 3 columns, writing down the tasks I was doing on a weekly basis, the ones that I did only say once a month, I wrote them down as well. I then looked to how many hours or minutes per week I was doing in each of those. The ones I did less frequently, I just amortized it down to approximate amount of time if I were doing it weekly. And the third column was how many minutes or hours of those tasks, if I wasn't doing them, could I pay somebody else at a lower pay rate than, here's the critical point, than I wanted to pay myself?
Yes.
How much of that time could be done by somebody else? The outcome of this list was horrifying, actually. I realized why I was getting so exhausted. I was working at least 80 hours a week, but the really mind-shattering column was the one of how much time I could outsource to somebody else, and that was 40 hours a week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Like half your time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was never going to make any significant money while I was fluffing around doing all those low-level things that were important, and they were the background of the business. But they needed doing, but there wasn't enough hours or energy. And this is another time management tip. In actual fact, is that we're not really talking about time management so much as energy management.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. So, and then there was another big steep learning curve fairly. I didn't have enough money for anybody, but just the outcome of that was that I ended up job sharing with a friend who was going through a similar early business growth phase, same sort of issues as me. And we job shared her, this lovely young girl, off a government work scheme. So we got half of a person each for a quarter of a wage because the government paid the other half of the wage.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. That's a great way to do it. We love kind of sharing economy these days as well. I mean, we do that with office space. We do it with, a lot of different things. The sharing economy kind of has managed to get itself really wedged in quite nicely because it is more economical. It's more environmentally friendly in some aspects. Yeah, I love hearing about this because I think one of the things that has to happen, and maybe you can speak to this, is how do you change your mindset from being a person that, that getting over that hurdle of I'm spending money, to do something that I know I can do myself. Because there's a saying that I heard once. It's like, Aussies will spend money to save time, but Kiwis will spend time to save money. Or you could apply it to other cultures, US or what, you know what I mean? But that person, but we often have this, well, I can do it myself. I even do it with my own art. Like if I see a piece of art, I'm like, oh, I could make that. I don't go home and make it. It doesn't get made, but the fact that I could make it, I don't buy it, I might buy it. So how do you change that mindset to be a person who's like, okay, I'm going to invest in this? Or do you have a strategy that you think might work for some folks?
Well, one of the tips, one of the strategies that I've used, and I've done it multiple times over my life, and I did it again just really recently, is wonderful mind maps. I've got them sitting right here, and I didn't know you were going to ask that question. So there's a mind map.
Yeah.
That one is titled Tasks to Complete. As a result of that very comprehensive one, I did another one called My VA, Virtual Assistant, because I realized there were so many things on that first list that I showed you that I was never going to get to. And I just love delegation. And yes, to your point, we often think we can do it ourselves. I could do all those things on that list. But I guess I've had enough life experience to know that I'm not going to get to all of them. And I've just recently been, again, and I've done it before, I'm using outsourced people from Fiverr now, actually. And for example, I've just, with my indie publishing work, my independent publishing with my novels, I'll just wave them at you, Anna Murray, if I may.
Please do. Yeah,
I'm so excited. This latest one, for example, is really, well, in fact, both of them, although they're written for adults, they're totally appropriate for students as well. School is about to start in America. These books are set in America. They're about the 1840s and 50s in America, and abolition and slavery and things like that. And so I decided, and this is just an example to your question, that I needed that I wanted to market to all of the high school libraries in Ohio. I thought I'd start with one state because that's the state that these two books are written about, based on my abolitionist ancestors. So one of my jobs was write a letter to all of those schools. Where do you find a list of those people? Well, I found this amazing woman in Pakistan or somewhere, and in 3 days she had me 600 names on a really lovely clean Excel sheet with emails and all of the details to approach all these school librarians.
Amazing. And that's, I mean, to go and research that yourself, it's going to take lots of time, but now you've built a little bit of a list, you know, that you can draft an email, you can write that email, and then you can send it out to all the schools. And you know, and that's really a lot easier to do than the research itself of finding the schools, and the appropriate contact people is super important as well. Oh, a very smart use of your time there, and really good food for thought for those of you listening. Have a think about those kind of things. If you're trying to expand your network and you really want to personalize it in a way with your EDMs, then, you know, maybe this is an option for you depending on what kind of work you're doing. So I love that. So let's go into a little bit of, well, I mean, like, I want to talk about the successes. Are there any more challenges that you found that you want to point out because you felt like they were really good lessons for you and they brought your business to a new level?
Yes, and I want to stay focused on digital things as well because I've had so much learning from that.
Absolutely.
One of the first lessons that coincided with it came a little bit after getting the staff assistance. I had a wonderful woman working for me a couple of years, and I'd been using for my contact management system, I'd been using ACT, which you don't even hear about these days, but it was pretty groundbreaking at the time and complicated. And I'd learned some of the absolute tiny bits of it, just entering data, but we were also using it to send out information. And my wonderful woman that was working part-time for me came in one day and said, "Robin, I'm sorry, today's the last day I can be here," which was a bit of a shock. But her mother was dying of cancer. She lived up in the Bay of Islands, needed to come down to Auckland to be cared for by one of the family members. And Hedy was the only person that didn't have her own business, basically. So she got the short straw, and therefore I got the short straw. And the lesson for me out of that was to get systems recorded, because you're not going to ring somebody whose dying mother is needing constant care, even if the person lives just down the road, which she did. I stumbled around, and I got other people to come and help me, but it just made me realize how important it is to understand the processes and get them recorded if you're not the one that's doing the doing.
And I would say that, you know, a really good tool that you can use, and this is just a little bit of a tool that we've been using. I mean, I remember the days of, you know, we have a share drive or whatever, and you'd write out basically like a handover document. So you'd have
Mm.
all of the things that you do on a daily basis and how you do them, and now go to select, now go to template, you know, and
Yeah.
you're typing it all out. I'd say if you want to cut that time in half, look at me, Robin. I'm giving a time tip. Use Loom, or even Vimeo has like a small one. There's lots of tools like this that screen record. And I think if you're using digital tools, or you're doing a process, now what I do is I'll record like a Loom of under 5 minutes or something like that, of me actually going through and doing the actions. And you can talk, you can record your voice while you're doing it. So if there's little bits and pieces you want to add in there, I mean, if you wanted to add a written part to it, because that is for accessibility or what have you, you could also do that as well. But I do think that sometimes even having just something you can refer to that's a quick video that you can watch can be really useful to use as a handover. So there we go. I'm throwing things in the pot too
That's
today, Robin.
perfect. And I'm pleased you mentioned Loom, because I've recently discovered that, and I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And
Mm.
I've actually took you can make it an extension on your browser. So if you don't know what that is, it sits up on your
On
main
the bar.
of your web page there, guys, and you can add it as an extension. And so you just click on that little icon in the corner once it's added there, no matter what page you're on, and you can start recording. So it's pretty handy. If you need help with it, contact support at digitalboost.co.nz. We're happy to help you set that up so that you can make your life a little bit easier.
Cool. I didn't know about the
Yeah,
extension. So you see, we all keep learning all the time.
yeah, extensions. I do love an extension. I've
Yeah,
got
me too.
Grammarly. I've got my my LastPass. So that's my password manager, because I don't want to have to remember 50 million passwords these days. It's just too much. I just want to remember one. So tell me anything else before we move on to successes, because you've got
Oh,
a wealth of experience, and I don't want to miss out on any goodies here.
well, another one was Dropbox, which I used for years and years. And I've only just in the last week, when I was doing coaching with another client, she was talking about the audio facility in her email. I'm going, my email hasn't got a dictation facility in it. And I found that it's with Office 365. So having been a little bit slow on getting into Office 365, because the previous version worked quite well, I just upgraded last week, and I'm a big fan of dictation. I have used at different times. I've used Dragon Naturally Speaking, but I've often had trouble with the headset. So I'm really delighted that Microsoft have caught up with the game, and Office 365 has got because you just save time, like you've just said about Loom. If you can speak into something, so I've got now that little icon shows up when I'm in Word and in my email system, and I imagine it shows up on all of the Office things. You can talk more about that, I'm quite sure.
Yes, well, we did do quite a while ago. I'm actually going to I just want to find it right now, because I've been setting things up with ACE Training, and they are Microsoft training specialists. And I've actually, it's not up on the calendar yet, but I do have it booked in as a topic. On December 1, we're going to be doing a workshop, which means that we actually get to go in and go along and do on Outlook with ACE Training, Vicky Schroeder. And she's an amazing trainer with Microsoft tools. We did Excel. We're going to do Outlook. We're going to do Power BI. And we're also going to do a second session on Excel the beginning of next year for pivot tables. Hot item. Pivot tables and graphs. Get excited, guys.
Well, yeah, I know my limitations.
Yeah. So December 1, if you're keen to learn more about Outlook and actually get into the nitty gritty with us, join us on that date. It'll go up online as soon as I've got all the copy. So exciting news. But I do hear what you're saying. I think dictation, even when I send people messages now, normally I just do a voice record. I guess like the only thing with a voice recorded message versus a dictation tool is if somebody's in a place where they don't have headphones, they can't listen to it. But it's different when we're talking about Word docs and things like that. Microsoft tools have a lot of tools like that now. They've totally upgraded their whole suite.
I certainly have.
Yeah, a lot of people are familiar, but sometimes we get a system and we stop learning once we know how to do what we want to do. I would encourage you, if you see a new button, push it. Don't push it.
one more thing on dictation is also you've got dictation in your phone. So I very rarely will type a message or an email if I'm doing it on my phone. I just press the little microphone button on there. So that mine's an iPhone, and Androids have got them as well. So it's faster. The only thing I will say is double check before you push
autocorrect. Get your Grammarly. Get a Grammarly app, install that, make sure it'll help you to find those little bits and pieces that you might not see because your eye just skips over it, which, because we just move so quickly these days. So I want to move into, I might keep this going. We might talk about some of your successes a little bit later on, because I want to move into some of the digital tools you use, and I want to talk about this journey. So, let's start with just like websites and social media, and then let's move into your email marketing, because I think that's a very unique aspect of your business. So for your website, and that with your business, you do a lot of learning, modules, your course, your service-based business. What's been your journey with websites?
Oh, well, the journey. I was living in Sydney for 4 years, between 96 and 2000. Websites were just beginning to be a thing. So I thought, well, I've got to keep up with the play here. And I got, there were lots of templated systems out there. They were clunky. You look at them now and you go, oh my gosh. But I didn't know any web designers, so I went and made my own, just with one of those templated systems. And that served for a while. And then I found that it was too limiting. And anyway, so over time, I've had various iterations of my website, but it certainly has driven my business all the time. I just can't imagine not doing it. And then with my publishing, my fiction author side of business, I actually made my own first Wix website with that. The other ones are WordPress ones now, and I do recommend people use something like WordPress because it's such a universal platform, and there's so many applications and things that you can do. But I don't try and do my WordPress stuff except for I load my blog in there. Because I'm scared I'll break something. Quite frankly. I love delegation, but I also know when to delegate and what things I want to stay with. So that's with the website. Then with the Wix website now, again, my first iteration was a bit clunky. So I now, just in fact, in the last few days, have hired a young guy from Pakistan, again, funnily enough, who is and through Fiverr, which is Fiverr, for those of you that don't know that one. Fiverr. And Shayan is just amazing. So he's about to start working on, he has done some work already for me. I also use there are all sorts of other tools that you can use depending on what your business sector is. For me as an author, I'm using amazing products like BookFunnel to help distribute books to people. There's I'll
try and find that really quickly. Is that an app?
It's a service. It's a software as a service. So it's called BookFunnel. If you're needing to send constant information to people, it wouldn't have to be an author. If you're wanting to send articles to people and things like that, and you're wanting to capture their names and details, you might have some sort of a capture device on your landing page, for example, on your website. And there are lots of ways you can do it, but because I'm sending, anyway, I don't want to get too much down that rabbit hole, but it's a really cool one for anyone like me. Another one, a lot of people talk about Canva, but for an author, there's another amazing tool called BookBrush, which is absolutely fantastic because it's really specific to books. Now,
is that to make? It's for covers and stuff.
It's for covers and all sorts of other really cool stuff as well. It's just sensational, and they're incredibly responsive and helpful as well. So it just depends again. But I suppose if we were to lift up the suggestion here. It's find the tools that are pertinent to your industry and go look for them, rather than sometimes the more general things are not going to be quite as useful for you. So that was something. Another one was the FPOS tool, because I've had a shopping cart on my website for ages and ages, but I've got all these situations, and for quite a long time I had DPS, and then I got one of the little gadgets from the ANZ for sales at work when I was at conferences and things. But I didn't feel really happy with that portable little FPOS machine. It just seemed to disconnect too quickly, and it was messy. So, and you're paying per month for everything as well. What I find now is so many more people now have got internet banking on their phones, that if I'm face to face with somebody, I'll just use, often people will just say, oh, look, I'll pay you right now. And I just give them my bank account details, which are on my phone. Or I use Xero, and I'm a big fan of Xero.
Xero is a really cool tool. We've got a session next week with Xero, and they're going to be sharing their top tips for small businesses that they've learned over all of their years of service to the community. We've got 3 workshops set up with them to get into the nitty gritty of Xero, because it is a tool that a lot of people use, but maybe you don't use it as efficiently. Love efficiency, don't we, Robin?
We do love efficiency.
So you might not use it as efficiently as you could. So I would encourage you to join our workshop next Thursday. So that's going to be really interesting with Shimmy Toddy. She's amazing. I'm so excited to have her back on. I haven't seen her on here since 2021, like probably January or May. And so it's exciting to have those guys back up on Digital Boost. Now, what I've done is across all the platforms, I've dropped all of those links into the chat. So we've got Fiverr there, you've got your Book Funnel, BookBrush, and I've actually put Upwork in there because Upwork is a similar app to Fiverr. So you can find people to do work for you there. So I've just dropped that in case you want to use it. And I know you chatted about Canva. Canva is a great tool. You can also give Design Space a go. That is a Kiwi owned brand or business for Kiwis, by Kiwis, Kiwi imagery, designed by John Boyle and his team of graphic designers.
What did you say the name was?
It's the name of the designer for the app.
No, the app.
It's called Design Space, DZYN, and then an actual space, and then the word space. And it's totally free. You know, there are, of course, upgrades, but it's got a little bit of a different feel to Canva. But if you love supporting Kiwi, I would highly recommend you check out that tool. We love hearing, of course, the ingenuity here in New Zealand is next level. So you know that it's going to be good. So I love that. I love those little tidbits there. And you've had your hands in lots of pots. Do you find, like, you know, because you do lots of different things, do you use social media a lot in your business? I mean, your business has kind of grown over time. So, you know, some people go, oh, well, I do a little bit here and there, but most of my business is done through networking or through, you know, things that I already have set up. Have you used social media at all?
Yes, I've tried various things. I'm not consistent with any of them, to be perfectly frank with you. The most important thing, and I know you guys push this one as well, is your website. Your website and your EDM, your email marketing.
It is.
That has been my most successful thing through all of my working career. Once those platforms were around, Facebook, they changed their algorithm so much. I've tried groups. I've tried the what do you call the live thing?
Live feed.
It was supposed to. I was doing that weekly. It was supposed to be increase my numbers. I think I was behind the game on that one. It didn't have any major impact on it. I've got various Facebook groups, but
you kind of got to pay to play if you're gonna things, not groups necessarily. It will depend if it'll kick off your group, and it is a great way to kind of get exposure for your product. And to join groups is a great way to get exposure for your product. If you join groups and then become a part of that group, oftentimes you can talk about your products that you have in that group. They're not totally obsolete. TikTok's like the current winner of all, I'm Switzerland. Okay, look, all the platforms are great, but the algorithm for TikTok is allowing you to still get a lot of organic reach. So we are really encouraging folks to give it a go. We had a TikTok workshop, but I do hear what you're saying. And I think it also depends, and it's a really good point, where do your customers sit? If they're not on those platforms, if they're on LinkedIn and they're not on Facebook, then you don't need to be really on Facebook. Hey,
That's right.
Of your time. So like I'm not going to go and sell dog coats or like cute dog outfits on LinkedIn because people aren't there for that. So figure out where your customers are and do those platforms. And so many experts have come on here and said, pick a platform, get familiar with that platform. Just be a superstar at it. Then add another platform. Don't try to do it all at one time. I mean, a lot of them link together now, like with Meta having Instagram and Facebook linking. That's really cool. But the types of content that you put on those platforms oftentimes should be a little bit different. So, have a think about that and make sure that you're still hitting the mark with what the content should be on those platforms.
Well, what I'm doing with my social is I occasionally post something on LinkedIn because that's where all my business clients are.
Yeah.
And I just got a client from Canada as a result that came through LinkedIn. And I'm about to learn TikTok because for the reasons you said for my book marketing.
Great to see you.
And I am doing I'm about to start again with this next book, this current book, Amazon and Facebook ads. So they're learning curves for me again, but I need to master them. So I've poked at it with a stick, but I agree with 100% with everything else you said there. Actually, thank you.
We've got a question here from Carly, and says, if using a site like Fiverr, how do you wade through all the options to find that great person like you seem to have? Thinking time management, I find I get caught up in all the options and waste so much time looking.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You put a bit of a limitation on yourself. Like I went through that exercise last week. I found 3 different people for 3 different tasks. The first one was really quick because it was a small job, but looking for somebody who will do some data research for you and looking for somebody who do your works. What I did, I didn't go more than a couple of hours looking at people before I tried somebody. And I just give them a trial job to start with. So there were 2 people that said they could do this data gathering for me. One girl with a small job, she was taking, it was nice work, but it was far too slow. Whereas the other lady just proved herself. So don't spend too much time on it. Just if you think somebody looks reasonable, just give them a trial.
So do you normally give them a different task and not the actual task, or do you give them the actual task?
Well, using the list, let's just use that as an example. The one from Nigeria, whom I did not use, seemed like a really pleasant person, but she, I just gave her different cities to find out. So I said Cleveland and Columbus, and I said to the other lady who had lots more reviews and lots of really, and that's another key thing is to look at their reviews and their ratings. And the one I ended up with, I gave her different places and she just produced it so fast.
Yeah, I would say, that's a really important, look, you've said something there that on the back, I'm going to look at it from the back end. This is why reviews are so important, right? Because this is why we get chosen. So if you're a person that provides a service, then have a look at your review page. See if you can do, you need to be gathering those testimonials, gathering those reviews, and doing that in a way that's reciprocal to the person that you're working with, because it will eventuate into work. And handling those negative reviews is also super important, and doing that really transparently, so that people can see that you actually care about that person, what that person said. So I love what you've just said there about reviews. Let's kick into this option. I hope that was a good answer for you, Carly, that sent that through. If you need more information, please let us know. We're happy to help. I do want to ask you, Robin, about your email marketing, because it has been the cornerstone of your business, and you're very welcome. It's been something that you've really excelled on. I want to talk about let's start at the beginning, how you started your marketing, these newsletters, and then let's move to where it's come from and how it's affected your business.
Oh goodness. Well, starting at the beginning, I have to tell you a funny little story because it's a delegation one as well. I was writing the news. This was before I started doing the email marketing, actually, when I think about it. I was writing the newsletter and I had staff when I was living in Sydney. And Kate came in one day and what she was doing was setting it graphically on PageMaker or something, or the earlier iteration of. And then she would take the letter, photocopy it. She would go down to the post shop. It was all of that slow stuff. And she came in one day and she said, you're wasting your time doing this, Robin. Well, I knew that you had to keep in touch with your customers. So I'm going, what do you mean? She said, you could be doing this so much more inexpensively. My child, my 12-year-old, Dylan, would like to outsource some of the work for you. And I'm going, well, tell me more.
Tell you what, 12-year-olds are some of them.
Entrepreneurial child. Look, and I'm a big believer in getting kids to do stuff. So Dylan ended up doing, his mother still did the layout and the photocopying. And then Dylan did the printing out the labels out of our database system, which was still active at that time. He did the stuffing, the enveloping and everything else. Well, Kate came back a couple of days later with the bill. It was far less, and like she'd calculated how he was doing it on piecework. So she knew how quickly she could do it, and he was offering a lower pay rate. And I looked at the bill and going, this is awesome. She said, oh, it got better than this. She said, Dylan outsourced as well to his 6-year-old brother who only got, like, Dylan got the money and the kid got it taken to McDonald's. So that was actually pre the EDMs. Then I started out with my when I had about 600 emails, and the email was becoming a thing. And I started sending it out. Well, that list got up to 20,000 people.
It's a bit of a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was all organic people. And so what I was doing when I was going to an event, I've had always on my website from a very early stage, I've always had what we could call a reader magnet. And there are other names for it as well. But mine is called, and if you go to my website, gettingagrip.com, you'll see an iteration of it there still. It's called How to Master Time in Only 90 Seconds. And so I would say to people, if you'd like to receive that, I just would give them a little sheet of paper. If you would like to receive my free report, just pop your name and email address on here. And so I paid a staff member to load those names in. These days you can scan things so efficiently. Then there's all sorts of other ways, more sophisticated ways to do it, but that's how the mail list actually grew. And it's just and I'm not as regular as I used to be because I tend to get really caught up with my writing, but there are it's averages between fortnightly to monthly, and sometimes it's a bit longer. But if you keep in touch with people, guys, and the important thing is to make it friendly so that it's your voice and not be always selling at them, because I'm sure you've given lots of coaching on that one, Anna Marie, as well. Like, for example, I'm now building another list, and I'm doing that through various other book-related things. So on my fiction list now, I've got over 1,800 people on, and I get hardly any unsubscribes because I'm always giving them some. They're all interested in historical fiction or in books. And I'm giving them some really interesting little snippet that I've discovered in my research. And that website is a different one, by the way. It's Robin R. Pierce, if people are interested in the fiction list. And you can get on that. So that's kind of the bones of it. Is there any more?
No, I love this because I love going paper to digital. It's it's really cool. And the amount of subscribers that you have, like 20,000 is not that's a feat in itself, and especially in the way that you built it, or you started building it. There's a lot of work that goes into maintaining something over the longevity that you've had your business as well. Like there's a lot of time that you've put into communicating with your customers and staying in touch. Now,
I have to say, I don't have 20,000 on that nonfiction list now.
That's your nonfiction list. This is your side hustle. We're just getting started here. Now, I want to know what platform you use to send out your EDMs. Are you using Canva?
Happy to talk about that. For quite a long time, I used I used what's it called? Infusionsoft, which is now known as Keep. And I was encouraged to do that by a chap that was working with me in my business quite a few years ago, because it's very powerful. It's a very cool tool. However, it's the Rolls Royce of EDMs.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the need for all of the data collection that it does, maybe you don't go there. But I happily paid the money for a long time, and I used it on many different things. Now I'm using MailerLite, and I find that quite adequate.
MailerLite.
Yes, it's like MailChimp, but easier.
Oh.
Yes. And I used to struggle with MailChimp, actually. I'm reasonably technically adept. My grandchildren think I'm quite a cool granny.
Yes.
Tell people 17 grandchildren, did I mention?
No. Add them to the mailing list. So I've dropped MailerLite into the chat. Let me just get you guys on socials. Sorry about that. One sec.
And I seriously recommend it. It's very easy to use. They're very quick. You could got up to 1,000 on a free list, and then after that, if you got more than that, you pay. So you might, for example, belong to various social clubs where, if you're the person that's doing the comms, which I am for a couple of different things, you can have like the Classic Yacht Association. You can see the boats in the background there. I do the mailing list for them out of that, and we're up to 800 and something members, but that goes out for free.
Yeah, so that's great. I mean, if you're just getting started out now, so you switched from a different platform? Did you use?
I could import it really easily. You just export from the existing list, which was Infusionsoft, with a CSV file.
Yeah.
And the instructions are always there.
Yeah.
And it was easy to export it in.
I just want to grab this Infusionsoft just in case somebody does want it.
I think they call it Keep now, KEAP.
Yeah, it looks like it, KEAP. Okay, I found it. Sorry, guys. I'll just grab this for you if you do want the Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Pop this in the chat. It might not be for you, but you know what? Some people have businesses where they've just got a huge mailer and they want those analytics. They're a bit geeked out by analytics. I know I've got some folks that I need, Elaine, that loves some analytics. So here we go. And yeah, so I've dropped that in the chat for you. Now I want to finish up this chat because I think that's really interesting. If you guys have any more questions about email marketing, this would be the person to ask. So I would encourage you to drop some questions in the chat if you have them. There's been lots of engagement on Facebook, just chatting back and forth and stuff like that. So I can see you guys out there, but if you've got a question, let us know. Now, before we finish up, I want you to tell me your key moment of success that was success to you. Now, it doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be pertaining to your business, but usually, as a small business owner, life is business. so, whatever that was. And then I would love some tips, if you've got like top 3 tips for time management, that'd be really great.
Life success is obviously, with 6 children and 17 grandchildren, family are really important to me. So they're probably my biggest achievement. And my kids have done and are doing some really amazing and awesome things. So, but I mustn't do the proud mother and granny thing and rave about them too much. But they've been really huge. And the other one that felt like having a baby was my very first book, called Getting a Grip on Time, which has now been completely re-edited. It's now called Getting a Grip on Time Management, and that's all my books are now on Amazon, and over time will go onto other platforms. And I still have some copies available of some of the titles in physical form. So I've got a separate book only website. It's robinpearce.com, which covers both fiction and non-fiction. But the big site to look at is gettingagrip.com, where there's masses of information. But writing that first book, I have to say, and it became a bestseller. I've sold about 20,000 copies of that in Australia and New Zealand. And it's never been out of print, although now it's in digital form as well.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Now, have you always been a writer?
I've always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't start. When I was having all those babies, they all came in a 9-year period. There was no time for writing then. So it wasn't until I was into my 40s that I started writing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just loved that first book. I learned so much about writing by doing that. And my first 5 were published by Reeds, who are one of New Zealand's wonderful publishing houses, now gobbled up by Penguin. So those are probably successes, but very quickly, because I know we're nearly out of time, and us girls are keen on time management.
Oh, no.
The 3 tips. The first one, and it's on the back of my business card still today, is the ability to say no is our most powerful time management tool. And I qualify it by saying not in a career limiting or a relationship limiting way, but the ability to push back, come up with some alternatives, suggest other people if the thing you're being asked to do is not part of your bigger picture or your role. And that's a big conversation. Like, have a look on my website, just do a search on saying no on the big website, and you'll find articles about it. The second one, quickly, is don't do the one last thing. There are certain people, like probably nearly 50% of humanity, are people who tend to run late for things. That's a bigger topic. We could talk about it in much more depth. But if you're one of those and you catch yourself saying, "I'll just do," I can promise you 100% you will be late for the thing you were supposed to be getting out the door for.
Yeah.
And the last very quick one is, these things are amazing and wonderful, these mobile phones. Nearly said the bad word, turn the alerts off. You do not need to know that somebody is talking to you on Facebook. The only alerts I keep are text, and I do have Messenger, but I'm debating whether to turn Messenger off. You might choose different ones, the apps or methods that people are communicating with you on, but you don't need email. You don't need email alerts, and most alerts you do not need. And the other one is, in your computer, turn off your alerts for your email, because you need to be in charge of your time, not everybody else at the other end of a wireless.
I love that. And that last one on email, I actually found, the first thing that I was doing was going straight into email. And somebody said to me, "Oh, I never do emails first." And I was like, "Oh, really? I always go into my email first." And they were like, "Because," maybe it was you, I don't know. And they said, "Oh, because then you're already, everybody else is controlling your day now, but you need to structure when you're doing that." So I love that piece of advice. I always go in. I still go in, but then I go, "No, what do I need to do first to be ready?"
Right. Yeah,
and then I'll go in. Yeah. And I might even just go in and scan. Like, if I've got an event, I might scan to see if there's an email from that person. If they haven't emailed me, I'll come back to them later. Yeah. I try to get my stuff done first, because once you get in that city,
I wrote an article because I wrote a column for the New Zealand Herald Online for quite a few years, and one article was entitled "Don't Do Email First," and I got hate mail.
Look, haters gonna hate, don't you worry about that.
The people that did that hadn't read the article properly, actually, because I gave exceptions.
Look, there's always going to be haters out there. That's a piece of advice. There's always going to be haters. Don't worry about them. Do you? So yeah, no, I have absolutely loved this session today, Robin. Honestly, I feel like there's just so much value in the experiences that you've had, like some feedback here from Facebook, just fabulous tips, great tips about all of the tools that, love this so much. It's great to hear that even though we have a heap of digital tools for planning and time management now, the process is the same as Robin used 30 years ago. And that's so true. So, it's like the tools may have changed, but yeah, like you nailed it with the way that you've put it all out there. And I think we've got lots of value out of this session. I think I'm going to try and turn it into a podcast, because I think it's that kind of material.
Thank you.
And I want to have that on audio. But I want to thank everybody for joining us here today on Digital Boost for this success story and services and more with Robin Pierce from Getting a Grip. Check out her website. You can easily find her online with so many things. If you're into historical fiction or historical nonfiction as well, fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah. Fiction is the robinrpierce.com. Okay. And the other is just Robin Pierce or gettingagrip.com.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have had you on today, and we really appreciate you. And so I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on Thursday. We're going to be talking to Natalie Combe, who is going to be talking about how to price your work. I think we're getting into that this week, and that's going to be a workshop, so it should be pretty good. It's hard to price yourself, isn't it? Don't you think, Robin?
Oh, yes, that's the biggest challenge when people first go into the speaking business, for example, is how do I price myself?
Yeah, like how do you actually figure out your worth, and how do you have the, self-esteem for that? How do you structure that? So we're going to be looking at that. All right, folks, have a great day. Ka kite. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Robin. Have a
Thanks,
good one.
Carl.